Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. It is Juju's Oracle. Spirit wanted me to get on, y'all. I got a channeled message in regards to the collective will never be able to come together as man, as woman, to continue to cultivate these divine creations, these divine connections, if we don't understand and recognize and acknowledge the importance of brotherhood and the importance of sisterhood. There's so much discord within our own individual groups, but when you look at things on a large scale, there's so much discord between sisterhood and brotherhood. A lot of us don't want to look at how women can be detrimental to other women, how men can be detrimental to other men, how we have been detrimental to each other, right, in these spaces that we inhabit and things like that. And when you really look deeper, the ways in which we have traumatized each other in these spaces in regards to brotherhood or sisterhood, whether you are a man or a woman, whatever you identify as, that also plays a part in your perspective in these lower vibrational thoughts and patterns and viewpoints that you have on the opposite sex. And it can really be subconscious because when you think of brotherhood as a man or you think of sisterhood as a woman, you don't really connect that to how you deal and view the opposite sex unless it's, one of those situations where you got cheated on or you cheated and you blame the other woman or you blame the other man or whatever. But things are so much more complex. Things are so much more, they're so much deeper than that. Because when you are conditioned to have trust issues within your same sex, with people that identify with you, that should identify with you, when you start to have trust issues in those spaces and with those people, then it warps your perception of the opposite sex. You being around these people, being in these spaces, when you grew up and you were around your aunties, your grandma, your just the elders in your family who were of the same sex, and you heard their conversations, you heard the stories that they told. And as kids, we see a lot of the things that, our elders say and that they tell us as wisdom. But when we get older, then we realize that it either wasn't really wisdom at all, or we take things with a grain of salt. We start to apply them where they can be applied, where they resonate, and we leave the rest, right? But being in those spaces, you have to understand that it is a healing process to disconnect and to heal from anything that you have been taught and unlearn certain things, certain aspects, because they just were karmic. They didn't make sense. They don't make sense now because, we have evolved from 50, 60, 70 years ago and things like that. So you always want to make sure that you're staying up to date and that you're doing things how they work for you, right? That's really what wisdom is. You don't want to take exactly what somebody is telling you and apply that to your life if it does not really resonate or if it does not really apply or fit or make sense. And the same for men, growing up being around your older brothers, your uncles, your granddad, other men, if you had other men. Not all men had father figures or male figures around, so they were mainly around other women, and that also can warp your perspective and your perception, right? But really, when you do have access to these spaces, when you do have access to what should be a brotherhood, what should be a sisterhood, what can be these things, and they are actually toxic environments and they have done more harm than good, then that definitely warps your perception of the opposite sex and how you connect with the same sex as well, right? And that's obvious because you were in a space where you had, support or just proximity to the same sex, in connections with the same sex, but they were not fostered properly or they were not fostered to the highest degree or whatever the case is for you, right? And so there is definitely a call for, if you are out here saying that you're divine, saying that you're chosen on a more personal level, to hold people accountable, to hold your brothers accountable if you are a man. And I say brothers as other men, and hold your sisters accountable if you are a woman. And I say sisters as in other women. Because a lot of people, they like to say that they're healers and they're this and they're that and they're, for forward movement and they're leaders and good, but it has to be a time where we hold people accountable, where we hold each other accountable, where we hold ourselves accountable. And if you are a healer, if you are a leader, then obviously you have done the part, you know what it means to hold yourself accountable. So we have to stop placating, we have to stop babying each other, and we have to stop, first and foremost, bullying each other. Because a lot of what goes on in these dynamics, in these brotherhoods, in these sisterhoods is bullying. There is, in both sexes, hazing techniques. There is bullying. There is, all of these different things that go on when you do not go along to get along, when you do not fit in with the group. It's really about coming to a sense of understanding that when you are in a brotherhood, when you are in a sisterhood, there is still allowed to be individualism. There should still be individualism. Just because I want a group of friends or just because I want a sisterhood does not mean that I expect us all to be the same, act the same, look the same, think the same. But when you have people who are not doing the inner work, who are still running off of karmic principalities and karmic thoughts, timelines, and cycles, then you're not able to free yourself. You're not able to be yourself because they are in those spaces and they're creating discord. And until we get real about how we have been detrimental to each other, how we have bullied each other in these spaces, in these sisterhoods, in these brotherhoods, how we have hazed each other, how we do these things, and just like the whole idea of calling other men simps and calling women pick-me's and this, that, and the third, instead of, genuine correction and in solutions, quite frankly, then we will never get anywhere. And there will be more podcasts and there will be more shared posts and there will be more arguments on the internet. And everybody says, oh, these conversations, these are things that people only talk about on the internet. This stuff doesn't happen in real life. And while that may be true, it doesn't happen in real life because in real life, a lot of people, they definitely are not. They don't have the cojones. They don't have the balls to have these real conversations. So things never get discussed. Things never get called out. People are continuing to get married. People are continuing to get into relationships. People are continuing to have kids. People are continuing to go into jobs. People are continuing to enroll into schools that don't align with them, that don't make sense, that's not for their highest and greatest good, because they haven't healed the root issue, the main problem, right? And so to gaslight or to try to play it off like, these are not real issues. We only talk about this man versus woman stuff online. And whether you're a creator talking about these topics and doing your part, or, you whatever, role you play, you're a life coach, you're this, you're that, and you're trying to help the collective online or in person, just make sure that Spirit is saying, just make sure that you're actually applying these things in real life and doing the inner work for yourself so that you are a person who is of balance, who has let their ego down or knows at least when it is safe to do so and when it is actually conducive to do so for the upliftment of the collective and for forward movement of the collective. Because yeah, it's good that we do have these conversations, whether that is on blogs, online, in person. But when it mostly happens, and like I said, it does mostly happen online, a lot of people, they try to downplay the issues with sisterhood, with brotherhood, with men and women in connections, by saying that, these are only conversations that we have online. And that is true. And for a lot of the people who are putting out this information, Spirit is saying that, don't just chalk it up to, I'm going to put this information out because it's going to help people, but it's also going to, get my engagement up or get my insights up, but also make sure that you're applying this information in real life and that you are, really checking the people who are closest to you about how they are moving, right? And that's really just about setting boundaries and getting clear on what your values and your morals are and standing on that. And I do want to look into a deeper conversation in regards to, sisterhood and brotherhood and why we have these terms like simps and pick me and how we can really connect with each other more and give actual constructive criticism and come up with actual answers to these different, I'm going to call them principalities, because at this point, that's what they are, right? We think of the word simp, when you think of the word pick me, we have this idea, this generalized idea, which is from our perspective, our opinion, of what it is, because there really has not been a set term or a set definition of these terms, right? So they're just principalities that society has decided to come up with for certain groups of people that certain groups of other people don't like, right? And I have, myself as a woman used the term pick me plenty of times, but on the opposite side of that, I go up, quote unquote, go up for quote unquote simps, because from my perspective and from my understanding and from what I have saw, and I'm not here to argue with anybody about this, men call other men simps when they are just, good men. I have never seen a bad man who does not take care of his business, who does not take care of his family, who does not take care of his wife or his girlfriend or his children or whatever, be called a simp. That's usually what men who think they do too much for women, oh, you're doing too much, or you're loving on her too much, that type of thing. And that type of hazing in brotherhood, I'm not a man, so I can't really identify with you guys and what you go through, but I'm very observant. And again, I'm tapped in. And so when spirit tells me to speak on something, I'm going to speak on it. And that whole hazing idea and situation, and even with pick-me's, because I have used that term before, pick-me, what would it cost for us to take a deeper look at those principalities and see where they come from, and see, and even if we can get a good definition on it so that it can actually make sense, and we're not just going around calling other people these things just as a form of projection or as a form of bullying or as a form of hazing, right? Because until the collective can come to some form of understanding, we're going to continue to have this issue where it's, oh, we don't talk about these things in real life. This just happens on the internet. But the divorce rates are going up. People are arguing in their relationships. People's marriages are falling apart. People's friendships are falling apart. People's connections ain't about shit. You know what I'm saying? So which one is it, right? Do we need to have these conversations or not? Just because it's only happening on the internet doesn't mean that there's not a real trickle down of cause and effect. And to piggyback off of this whole thing, with people coming out on their platforms or creating their platforms to talk about narcissistic abuse and trauma, personalizing their own trauma and telling their personal story on their platform. And, people telling them, oh, you shouldn't talk about family business on the internet. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. But on the other opposite side of that, there's somebody else out there who has been taught, oh, yeah, we keep this in the family. What happens at home stays at home. Don't tell anybody our business. But they're battling the heaviest things. You may not know what certain people are going through because they have been taught and they have been told, you're not supposed to run your mouth. You keep family business. And they have no out. They have no way forward. They have no inspiration. They have really nothing to look forward to. But that person that you're trying to shut up, that person that you're trying to shut down, that person that you're trying to invalidate, they are actually a divine connection. They were divinely guided to do what they're doing to help the collective, right? Because there is a collective of people who have, dealt with these different traumas and are still dealing with these different traumas and have nobody to talk to and have nobody to relate to, and don't even know that they, can open up their mouths to say anything, don't even know that what they have gone through is bad, is wrong. And I think that's also a part of sisterhood, and that's also a part of brotherhood, is allowing for people to tell their story and allowing for people to connect, right? Because a lot of women, especially, and I'm just going to say it because I'm a black woman, I don't know if you know, but a lot of women, especially black women, we like to complain, quite frankly, about our traumas and how, the collective does not care about us and how we're the least desired and the least cared for women. But listen, as a black woman, my first bully were other black women, other black girls. We can be vicious. There's no doubt about it. There's no lies, okay? And until we start to acknowledge that, and until we start to do the healing and the shadow work necessary for us to get around each other and have a sisterhood and genuinely care about each other without envy, without bullying, without judging each other. And interpersonally, we have all been sort of raised differently and raised to been, conditioned to believe certain things and to think certain ways. This is just history, right? So also with Black women, a lot of us, we have been conditioned to be male identified, but this is women in general, right? A lot of women in general have been conditioned to be male identified, do things for the male gaze, do things so that men will find you attractive, do things so that men will find you pretty, do things so that men will find you feminine, so that you can get a husband, so that you can get married, so that you can have kids by a certain age, da 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 da. So in these interpersonal conditions that we've been, raised around, a lot of us, we don't see our sisters as sisters, but we're here to fight for the brothers, though, right? You see another Black woman as your enemy, but if a Black man gets shot, then you're protesting. And so we have to definitely take a look at that and why we put ourselves as Black women on the back burner in order to cape and go up for other groups of people, whether they're in our community, and that would be Black men, whether whether their views and morals and values have aligned with us or have been detrimental to us or not, right? Because a lot of Black women, they have caped, they have gone up, they have idolized Black men who don't even like Black women, who have actually vocalize their disdain for Black women, and that is acceptable to Black women after years of conditioning of accept the bare minimum, love people who don't love you, right? And I'm not here to tell Black women, and I'm not here to tell women or men in general to stop loving the opposite sex or stop loving. No, I'm not here to cause any more division. What I'm saying is that we need to take a look at these things so that we can heal certain things, so that we can actually come together from balanced perspectives, from balanced spaces. There's a lot of podcasts, there's a lot of red pill, blue pill, green pill, whatever, and these women who are out here telling you need to drop these certain type of men, you need to get with these certain type of men, and then the men, you guys don't need to mess with these certain type of women, you need to drop these certain type of women and only go after this certain type of women. That is so, it's like child's play to me, because when you're divinely led, you don't let these types of things determine where you go, who you go with, and what time you're going to be there. You're divinely led, right? So I don't need a podcast. I don't need some lady that claims that she's married to a millionaire telling me what I need to do in my life, right? Now, thank you for the tips. I will know what I need to look out for. But just because you say that you're this thing and you're doing this and that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's going to work for me. And at the same time, when these situations arise, and when everybody is where they're supposed to be, let's just say that it is a perfect world and everybody is doing what they're supposed to do. You're listening to the right podcast, or you're reading the right books, and you finally get to where you're supposed to be. Okay, so where does that leave the rest of the world, right? The unforgivables, or the unfuckwitables, or the people who are, the single moms that everybody likes to say is worthless, right? Or the simps, right? Once we leave all of them alone, then what do we have? Once everybody's in their rightful places, and the good people, quote unquote good people, are married and they're desired and they're desirable and high value, they're in this corner, and then the single moms and the single dads, the undeservable, the unfuckwitables, they're in this corner, and then the simps and then the pick-me's are all over here in this corner all alone. Once that comes to fruition, right, after listening to all these podcasts and finally doing something, then what? If we each haven't done the inner work and done that shadow work and healed our inner child and went to therapy, acknowledged the shadow aspects of ourselves, so then you're still having arguments in your marriage. You still ain't making no money because you haven't learned how to manage it. You still don't know how to get along with your family. You feel what I'm saying? So what are we really talking about here? Everybody everywhere, man and woman, is so bent out of shape about pointing fingers and claiming that they're this and that and I'm so much better, when it should really be about gaining peace. Be with who brings you peace. Be with what brings you peace. There's a lot of people that I wish I could support, that I wish, that I see the potential in, but it's just like, nah, I can't fuck with you because you don't bring me peace. You don't reciprocate that same energy. And even though I see the potential, even though I see the talent, even though I see, whatever the case is, that's not for my highest and greatest good. So I'm just going to move over here. I wish you the best, though. It's not beef. Doesn't mean that I don't like that person. Doesn't mean that I don't support that person in getting to where they need to be. Because I have decided, it's not because I'm being mean, but it's because I have decided that I want certain things in my life. If I say that I want a sisterhood, I'm going to have to to align, I'm going to have to attract women who believe in sisterhood, who actually know what genuine sisterhood is, right? Not women who are still healing their inner child or have, I'm still healing my inner child too. Healing is a journey. So I'm not saying that if you're still healing, I'm just better than you, and no. You know what I'm saying. Women who are on their shit, women who are on their healing journey already, who would know what a sisterhood is. And at this point in their life, they're looking for the same things. And so they're not going to go into it ready to self-sabotage. They're not going to go into it with trust issues. They're not going to go into it judging me already. And there's certain spaces and there's certain women that I already know that I have to cross out, that I already know that I can't associate myself with or be around or support because they do not serve that higher purpose. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for drama. I'm not looking for chaos. And we have to be able to do those things in order to attract what we say that we want, what we say that we feel we deserve. And if you get pushback from that, from your sisters, from your aunties, from your grandma, from your mother, then calmly explain, if I had an environment where I felt safe, if I had an environment where I felt this was a sisterhood, if I had an environment where I felt this was a brotherhood, then we could kick it. Then we could have a conversation. But until then, I'm going to let you handle your own healing, right? And when you feel like you're ready to be in a space of brotherhood, to be in a space of sisterhood, to give and get support, adequate support, to give and get adequate love, then we can revisit our connection. Then we can revisit rebuilding, right? From a new slate. And that is boundaries. And that's what life is all about, because you cannot create a life of peace. You cannot create a life of abundance if you are sitting in environments that make you feel like you're standing in the middle of a war ground. And there's so many women out here who are married, but they're mean to their daughters. They're mean to other women. They don't mean other women well. They have bad intentions for other women, but they're a wife, so they can look good in society. In society's eyes, they can play that part. And then there's also men who have problems with other men, but they take it out on women, or they're still married and they might take it out on their wife, or they're still married and they play this good husband, and they might even be a good husband. But if you do not know how to exist with other men, what good do you serve as a man? What purpose do you serve as a man? When you go to work, you can't even listen to your boss, or you're a horrible boss. Nobody wants to listen to you. Nobody really respects you. They're more scared of you than they have respect for you. And so it's very important for you as an individual to make sure that you are able to harness your energy around people who have the same energy as you. Be sure that you are always leading with love, right? Because not everybody knows what a sisterhood is as a woman. But when you get around me, you're going to feel that love. You're going to feel that genuineness, right? Even if you don't have it for me, I'm going to get the hell away from you. That is going to be the last time you ever see me. That is going to be the last time you ever talk to me. But I have nothing but love for you because I love myself. That's the type of vibe that I'm on. And that's what we need more of in this world today. Instead of pointing fingers, instead of calling other women pick-me's, instead of calling other men simps, figure out how it is that you can show up in love and in light and inspire the collective. Inspire your brothers, inspire your sisters to be better versions of themselves, to be versions of themselves for their highest and greatest good that actually makes sense, right? And that's really all this channel message was about today. Again, I'm going to do a lot more videos on these different principalities. Thank you so much for listening. Talk to you in the next video.